Now we're sure that we're playing as our BP player character when we press play, but we cannot move, we cannot even look around. So let's add this functionality. Before we actually code anything, we need to add something called inputs. Inputs are really important because inputs are like getting which key is pressed on our keyboard, and then they're passing this value to whatever we want. So let's go to our content drawer. Let's go back to main folder where we need to create another folder called inputs. Okay, now if we go inside this folder, we can right click, go to input, and we can select input action. I always call them IA underscore something. So first we will create input for our mouse, and then we will create input for our WASD. So this will be input action move, and we will duplicate this, and we will call this input action look. So with this one, we are looking around. So this is our mouse. And with this one, we are moving around. So it's WASD. But there's a pretty important change that we need to do. If we open input action look, you can see that we have a value type. Digital Boolean, we haven't talked about values yet. We will cover that a bit later. But for now, you just need to know that digital Boolean is like true or false value. If you expand this, we have axis 1D, 2D, 3D. And you can see this is float. So float is a value, it's like a number. Vector 2D is like two number values. And vector, just regular vector, is like three number values. And to move our camera, we just need two values, up, down, which is one value, and left and right, which is the second value. So we will go for vector 2D. And we need to do exactly the same thing for our input action move. We need to change this to axis 2D. If it doesn't make sense yet, don't worry. If we will implement this actually inside our player, everything will become clearer. So now we can close these inputs, but these inputs by themselves, they do completely nothing. To manage these inputs, we need to create something called input mapping context. So let's right click, go to input, and input mapping context is right here. Input mapping context, EMC for short, underscore player or whatever. And to make things even more organized, we can create a folder for our input actions. So I'll just call this folder actions. And I just move these to move here. Okay. So now if we open this EMC player input mapping context, you can see that we have mappings right here. And if we press this plus icon and expand this, we can choose our input actions. So let's go over a look because it's easier. If we expand this even more, you can see that we can assign some key from our keyboard or mouse to this specific input action. So let's expand this and search for mouse, and we will use mouse XY to the axis. That's why we changed this before. And now we know that our mouse X and Y, so mouse up and down and left and right, are assigned to this input action look. Let's save this and let's go over input action move. Let's add new mapping. Let's select input action move, expand this a little bit. And for movement, it is a bit more complicated because we need to add 4 different keys, WSAD. So let's add 3. And now we can assign these keys, but we don't need to search in here for W. We can just click this little keyboard icon and then press the actual key on our keyboard. So W, S, A, and D. We have W, S, A, and D, but we're not done yet because now we need to specify which values are like up and down. So in this case, forward and backwards, and which values are left and right. And in order to specify the W and S are values that should move our player forward, backwards, we need to add some modifiers. So we will add modifier called Switzel input axis value. And same for the S, Switzel. So now these two values, they move our player forward and backwards, and these two values move our player left and right. But W and S right now, they're doing the exact same thing. But if we press S, we want to go backwards. So we need to add another modifier called negate. So it will give us the same value as A, just a negative. And we need to do the same thing for A. We need to add negate modifier, so it gives us the same result as D, but negative. And now we're done with inputs for now. Let's save this and let's see how we can actually implement this in our player character.